Yo, what's going on, Trojan fans? What is up, and welcome to the Salute to Troy podcast, USC LAFB show. Ryan Dyrud here. Thank you all for always hanging out and checking in. Quick update for you. I've said this now twice. We'll be back with Coach and Madman here this week. I think, Coach is getting obviously acclimated to his new coaching schedule. For those that don't know, the new head coach at Jordan High School in Long Beach. So pumped about that, getting that program right, and hopefully going to be a USC pipeline here for many years to come. So, but just wanted to get on here since we last spoke, some big news in the coaching ranks, obviously. Defensive coordinator hired Rob Ryan, brother of Rex Ryan, but Rob Ryan, 24 years of NFL coaching experience on this USC Trojans staff. So want to talk briefly about that and some recruiting updates, a new commitment, plus some big transfer portal news that I guess you could say changed dramatically in a 24-hour period. So I wanted to quickly talk to you all about that. So hope everyone's well. Show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code. I do that. I keep doing that. No promo code. Just go to BetOnline. It's that easy. BetOnline.ag. All the best game lines, money lines, spreads, over-unders. Everything you need is on BetOnline. And they have every sport, every game imaginable. Obviously, the big game, the Super Bowl, coming up. Unfortunately, our Rams here in Los Angeles couldn't quite get it done against the Eagles. Great game. Man, so close. It came down to really three busted, explosive plays on defense. Otherwise, the defense played lights out. Offense was a bit up and down, but obviously made some big plays when they needed to. Came down to those three busted runs for touchdowns, 2 from Saquon, 1 from Jalen Hurts. We'll be talking about that all in our Rams LAFB show. You can find that at LAFB Network, of course. So check that out, as me and Skinny T will be recording that here today as well. But BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, well, let's get into this quickly. Rob Ryan, tremendous hire. I did an LB coaching kind of update just last week. I had my suspicions. I said it was just my opinion. No sources or talk. Obviously, there was the rumor swirling around that a coach had been hired, but had not been announced yet. So my suspicions were potentially one of those Washington Commanders coaches in either Ken Norton Jr., who is their linebacker coach, Ryan Kerrigan, who's an assistant linebacker coach, NFL legend, and also John Pagano, who's a senior analyst, basically, or assistant, and multiple years of DC experience and tons of NFL coaching experience. So obviously that is not the case, and the Commanders are still in the playoffs as they shocked everyone and beat the Lions. But it comes out just a few days ago that Rob Ryan is indeed the choice for these Trojans and for Lincoln Riley. Of the hire, Coach Riley said, Rob Ryan is one of the most accomplished defensive coaches in NFL history. With over 2 decades of NFL experience, he will immediately bolster our staff as we continue our climb here at USC. He has coached some of the NFL's top players, including numerous Hall of Famers and All-Pro selections. We're thrilled to welcome Coach Ryan and his family to our program. For those who don't know, Ryan was most recently with the Raiders staff as a senior assistant analyst. Wasn't technically a position coach, but worked extensively with the linebackers and just all defensive positions, as he's one of the most knowledgeable, I think, defensive minds in football, with his brother Rex, and coming from that tree of his father, Buddy Ryan, the late great Buddy Ryan, who coached all over the NFL and obviously with the Philadelphia Eagles as head coach. So lineage is there. But I mean, throughout all his stops, when you figure the 24 years in the NFL, defensive coordinator for the Raiders back in 04-08, for the Browns, for the Cowboys, for the Saints, and obviously coordinator or position titles with the Cardinals, Patriots, Bills, Washington, Ravens, and then the Raiders again this past 2 years. So tons of experience, and I think he adds an element to this defensive staff that will be very welcomed when you look at kind of what Lincoln Riley now is building with this staff and this program overall. This GM hire should be probably coming down this week or next week. I think we'll see that coming fairly soon. as they kind of turn this college program into an NFL-style run organization. But when you look at this defensive staff, obviously run by Dan Lin, and Dan Lin has ties with Rob Ryan, coaching with him at different stops as he kind of began his coaching journey. But you have a ton of experience at each level, but now you're sprinkling in that kind of NFL pedigree that I think NFL coaches are a little better suited to work with these new brand or era of college athletes that essentially are professional athletes. Like, yes, they are college student athletes, however, they are getting paid. And so they approach the game, maybe not the game, but they approach their situation differently than they would have just 5 years ago. Like, I don't know. I can't remember if he's straight up said it, but we can all pretty much allude to Nick Saban retiring because I don't want to say he was afraid or didn't want to deal with an IO, but basically it was like the college game has changed. It's past what I'm used to, because coaches like Nick Saban, like Urban Meyer, ran, and I'm not saying this is bad, but essentially ran dictatorships in college. Like, it was their way or the highway, and they won. I mean, it worked, obviously. But that is why some of these college coaches have failed miserably at the NFL level. Most notably, we can talk about Urban Meyer at Jacksonville. Nick Saban, remember, went to the NFL from LSU, coached at Miami for, one season, and then went back to college, took the Alabama job. You have to have a different mindset in how you run an NFL team and paid players than a college team where everyone was just fighting, scratching, clawing to get to the NFL. Obviously, they want to win and win a national championship and beat their rivals. That's all part of it. But the ultimate goal for 90% of these players was to get to that NFL level, to be a professional football player. Now, I don't think that goal has necessarily changed, but now you have players that are getting paid and getting contract offers from other programs. So, hey, if you're a coach and you're running this dictator-style-like program, that's going to rub some players the wrong way, because I can actually make more money going here. I mean, we've seen the likes of Oregon, Miami, these other schools that, whether you want to call it tampering or not, that are basically offering kids before they're even in the portal. So you think a kid's going to put up with a coach that's running the program old school? And it's like, well, we only won 7 games last year anyway. I'll go make more money to go over here and not get treated, I guess, this way. Right, wrong, and different. I think that's just the way it is now. So I say all that because when you look at coaches like Coach Henne, who has the NFL pedigree, and now you add Rob Ryan to the staff, I think they may be a little better equipped to kind of navigate this new era of college football, because they've been in that light. They've dealt with professional athletes. Whereas, not saying Lincoln Riley, I mean, Dan Lin, too, obviously, been in the NFL, but not saying Lincoln Riley or Doug Belk or formerly linebacker coach Matt Entz or Zach Hansen or Dennis Simmons. Not saying these guys can't deal with it, but it certainly helps to have that coach that is not only a fantastic X's and O's scheme coach, but also has that pedigree and knowledge of, like, okay, well, this is how we coached, because they're professional athletes. It's a little different, and it's just a different. And so I think that you bring that mindset now, too, with Rob Ryan. And Matt Entz was such a huge loss, and all those players loved Matt Entz, and he was a true college football coach. So he shows it can still work to be that true college coach. Now, I do think they were lacking with Entz in the recruiting aspect. I think a lot of chatter that I heard was not that he was necessarily a bad recruiter, but just didn't, like, basically, he wasn't going to kiss butt to these kids, right? He was going to go say, hey, we want you here, and then that was kind of that. Like, made the offer, be here or not. But he wasn't going to, like, really behold himself to these kids and that. And so that's kind of that old school coaching mentality. And I'm not saying an NFL coach is going to do that either, but it'll be handled maybe in a little different way. And again, I'm not taking anything away from how great of a coach Matt Entz was, but I think that was his one shortcoming, if you will. And whether it was detrimental or not in the likes of, Riley Pettijohn, who I know his family absolutely loved Matt Entz, the coach, but maybe his lack of aggressive recruiting, maybe that's why Pettijohn ended up going to Ohio State. I don't know for sure. I heard these things, but I haven't spoken to them. Now, do I think Rob Ryan is going to do that? And I don't know. But I just think having that NFL pedigree may change things a little bit to where even if he didn't necessarily do that, because like Matt Entz, and again, I don't want to make this as sounding anything bad because Matt Entz was one of the best coaches on the staff, but Matt Entz had the championship pedigree, but it was at a lower level. Now Rob Ryan brings a championship pedigree, 2-time Super Bowl champion at the highest level. So if he doesn't want to maybe play that game of like, man, I'm just going to really just suck up to these kids to get here. It's like, you want to know what it takes to get to the next level? I got Coach Henney, Super Bowl champion with the Rams. I've won 2 Super Bowls. We've got a great college staff, but if you want to know how to do it at the next level, why would you go anywhere else? And so I just think this hire was great in the sense of X's and O's, football IQ, just a good coach, but it was also a very strategic hire in what Rob Ryan adds to this staff in terms of NFL pedigree. So I won't keep repeating it, but I think it's a great hire. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. It came honestly out of nowhere. That was the name I did not expect. Maybe just because he hasn't been like a high title in the last 2 years. He's just been kind of on that Raiders staff with Antonio Pierce, kind of like behind the scenes a little bit. So I'll be honest, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh yeah, I knew and had sources. No, it came out of nowhere to me. Like when I saw the name, I was like, all right, home run hired. Was not expecting that. So hats off to Coach Riley. Hats off to Dan Lynn, who obviously had connections with this and had something to do with this. And while this was going on, like he's getting offered by Penn State. And then USC locked him up. So all in all, a great week, a great 10 days for this coaching staff. When you talk also about Chad Savage getting added 2 weeks ago, this is a really good staff. Like it's crazy to think that with how good I think the staff became last year, when they hired the entire defensive staff, I think everyone, and myself included, was like, there was not a hire they missed on that staff. And then this offseason, you lose your O-line coach, you lose your star linebacker coach, and this staff, I think, is stronger. Like, we'll have to see how they work together, but I think it's actually a stronger staff when you think of moving Zach Hanson over to O-line, who he's proven to be a rising star coach. You add Chad Savage, who everyone is just glowing about that hire. And then Matt Entz, I loved him, loved talking to him, interviewing him. But then you add Rob Ryan with the NFL pedigree, and it's like, I mean, I wouldn't say, even if it's not better, you didn't lose a lot. So, home runs. Love it. So, anyway, let me know your guys' thoughts. If you're on YouTube, comment below. If you're not on YouTube, what are you doing? USC LAFB is the YouTube channel. Head there, hit that subscribe button. LAFBnetwork.com, you can comment there. Or just hit me up on Twitter, Ryan Dyrud LAFB or LAFB Network. Love to know your guys' thoughts. Quickly, recruiting news. So, my days are all mixed up. I want to say just on, what is today? Today is Tuesday. So on Sunday, the Carlos Nicholson, who we learned basically over Christmas break was going to be granted, because of this new JUCO ruling, an extra year of eligibility because of him playing at JUCO before going to Mississippi State and then transferring to USC. So the assumption that based on everything we heard is he was coming back, going to be at SC. Well, then on Sunday, out of nowhere, it's the transfer portal. As a grad transfer, you can, even though the portal's closed, you can really enter at any time as a grad transfer. Surprised by it. It was, obviously they needed some depth or just veteran presence in that cornerback room. They've done some good stuff now at safety in adding some guys. Obviously, they added DJ Harvey as a corner, who will be a starter next year, but they added safety as well and whatnot. And there's a lot of youth talent, but you want to have some older presence there, A, that know the system, that have been there before, B, that in those tight moments, as good as some of these young, fresh, incoming freshmen and soon-to-be sophomores I think are going to be, in those one-score games, to help this team get over that hump of those one play away, like sometimes a veteran helps you alleviate that and get past that. And so I really thought DeCarlos Nicholson coming back was huge for this team. Also just beloved in the locker room. Huge locker room guy, fan favorite. His family, son, everyone loves him. Jacoby Lane is like best friends with his little son. It's the cutest thing ever. So I thought it was a bummer. It was one of those more like when you see some of these other players leave, I think, and this isn't me, but fans maybe, I don't want to say outrage, but like upset. This was more of just like sadness. Like, bummer. Like, love that kid, but wished him nothing but the best. Well, basically 24 hours later, pulls his name out of the portal. Back at SC now for what we know. Still haven't heard if maybe he's actually going to go to the draft. That could be a possibility. From what I've heard, I think he's back. I haven't heard what the reasoning was yet. I will certainly update you guys if I get any intel on that, but based on just kind of what I can just guess is that, either went into the portal looking for something, maybe there wasn't a lot of as much interest as he expected. Now, again, it was such a short time, so I don't think that would be the case. I think it was probably more of either entering the portal and SC saying, hey, all right, what it's going to take, we want you back. We want you to be here. We want you to finish your college career as a Trojan. And whether it was NIL, whether it was playing, whatever stipulations, if you want to call them, SC, and they met and said, okay, cool, we'll make this happen. And both parties are happy. He's back. It was either that or potentially, again, this is all just me rambling. I don't have any source on this, or a team reached out and said, hey, hit the portal, or maybe not a team, but an agent, hit the portal and I can get you this from X school. And he hit that, and then maybe that either wasn't true or felt uneasy about it or whatever it may be and said, you know what, no, I'm where I need to be. So, again, could actually still enter the draft. So that could be a reason. But for what we know right now, on Tuesday, DeCarlos Nicholson back with the Cardinal and gold where he should be. I think it's huge for this program that if he plays for the Trojans in 2025. Great for Doug Belk's room, great for Dantlin's defense, great for just this team's culture, identity, and morale. So huge, huge, huge that Nicholson, hopefully, based on what we know right now, is back. And hopefully he gets everything he needs, obviously. And, he's a family man, so it's not like a 19-year-old kid. He has a family to support. So a little different scenario. So happy based on everything we know now, happy that he's back. So last little bit of recruiting news, a commitment yesterday in the 2025 class. So ahead of that February late period signing day, Cam Sermons, the brother of RJ Sermons, 2026 elite commitment, and the son of USC legacy Rodney Sermons, has committed to USC. Smaller frame, about 5'9", 150. So not a real big guy yet, but you can put some on. Don't know for sure if this will be a scholarship offer or a priority walk-on next season. But either way, it's always great to see legacies go to their programs. He will be the second, I guess, brother pairing, you could say, when he gets to campus, or I should say when his younger brother, RJ Sermons, gets to campus in 26, as both Sermon brothers and then Longstreet brothers, obviously Husan Longstreet, the 5-star QB, who is at campus now, and then his brother Kevin Longstreet transferred from Texas A&M to USC. So love seeing that, two brothers in the program, and he is registered as an athlete, so can play both ways, corner, safety, or receiver. Most likely a receiver, though, as that's where he primarily played at Rancho Cucamonga High School just last season. So I had this up for you. Let me grab it again, what his stats were last year. He had a pretty successful campaign in 2024. Finished with 37 receptions, 765 yards, but totaled 1,200 all-purpose yards and 7 touchdowns. So, like I said, smaller kid, will definitely need to put some weight on at the next level. But I want to take nothing away from him he earned this commitment. You know, he had offers from Army, Air Force, San Diego State, others. So great to see him at USC. So taking nothing away from him, but I think this also will help keep the commitment of R.J. Sermons next year, who is a top 5 corner in the nation, one of the best cornerbacks in the entire country, and is committed to USC. So that's the main goal of this staff, is keeping him committed and not having him flip, because it's a calendar year basically. Got to keep this kid. So having his brother on campus will certainly help that. Will certainly aid in that. Now, that doesn't mean they can't do what Kevin Longstreet did, right? Kevin Longstreet went to Texas A&M. Husan Longstreet was committed to Texas A&M. Husan flips to SC. Kevin transfers to USC. So it doesn't mean that can't happen. But when you're already on campus, when you're the local school, when your dad is a legacy and played running back here, all the chips and all the cards are lining up on the table where they should be. So there you go. Latest updates there with Rob Ryan hired. DeCarlos Nicholson most likely back at SC, which is great. And Cam Sermons committed to USC for the 2025 class. We'll be back later in the week with Coach and Madman. Thank you guys as always. Appreciate all the kind words and comments. I know it's probably a lot more boring just seeing my ugly mug by myself, but trying to just give you updates. All of our editorial can be found at lafbnetwork.com, so please, if you can, check that out. Certainly helps us out, and everything can be found on Twitter at LAFBNetwork. If you're listening on podcast platforms, Salute to Troy is the show on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And like I said, the YouTube channel is USC LAFB. Hit that subscribe if you have not. It helps us out a ton. Thank you all. Everyone have a great week. We'll talk later. And as always, fight on.